Hello there and welcome to Tuesday's One Show with Lauren Laverne.
And Alex Jones. We are live on BBC Two and iPlayer, and we've got a fantastic lineup of guests tonight who are talking about witches, a little bit of Queen and reunions.
Now, she's played powerful women in dramas like Gentleman Jack and Vigil, but now Suranne Jones is bringing the real-life history of witches' trials to our screen in a brand new documentary series.
It is such an interesting story, this. And also
Say hello to our guests tonight. Please welcome Adam Lambert, Suranne Jones and Rachel Stevens. We were saying, looking tonally beautiful over there. Look at that.
We didn't text each other.
No.
It just happened.
Amazing.
Just a Tuesday.
Suranne, we found a little link between you and Rachel because apparently, before you found fame on Corrie, you could have been the extra member of S Club 8.
Yes, I could have been.
Because you were singing the songs, weren't you?
I don't think they would have had me, but yes, I could have been.
What do you mean, S Club Juniors? No.
No. No,
Take it, go yes, yes.
Oh yes, yeah, I'll take that.
Yes.
No, so I used to go around schools and do like theatre and education, and we used to sing "Don't Stop, Never Give Up, Hold Your Head High and Reach the Top. We're all doing an NVQ and working in a job." And we just changed the words to fit. And all these 15, 16-year-olds were like, "What are they on?"
Oh, you should have joined us.
Yeah, would have been much better to join.
Yeah, see? Would you have had Suranne? I mean,
Oh,
she would have been in it.
%. She's in.
Yeah,
She's in.
exactly.
Yeah.
Can I join?
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Well, you're not alone, because while Rachel was at the top of the charts and while Suranne was pretending to be Rachel, Adam, we know that you were showing your potential at your high school graduation.
Oh, we're really
We've
going
tracked
back.
down this footage.
No.
Let's take a look.
It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Nailing it! Absolutely nailing it. I mean, in that moment, do you remember what you felt? Were you nervous?
Well, I remember getting to the end and I was trying to do a big note and my voice cracked at my graduation. I was like, "Ugh!" And I'm like, oh man, of course that happened today.
But look at you now.
Look at me
There
now.
you go.
Yeah.
Now then, this Sunday, Suranne will take us on a journey into the fascinating world of witches in a great two-part series. Let's have a look.
I'm going on an epic journey to uncover what led to some of the biggest trials in history. Starting in Pendle, close to where I was born.
This is the dungeon where the witches were imprisoned.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll travel to Germany,
If disaster strikes, we become ready to see evil in other people.
and to the American town of Salem, site of the most infamous witch trials of all.
If it was the last moment I was to live, God knows I am innocent.
Suranne, I got a sneak preview of this and I absolutely loved this documentary. How far back does your interest in the subject go?
I knew you'd love it. So when I was young, I think I loved folklore and fairy tales, and I gravitated towards the witches rather than the princesses, the people on the outskirts, the oddities. Like, those were the characters that I liked. So I guess now I understand why. You know, now, like, throughout the documentary, I've kind of thought, oh, that's why I liked the wild women, the women that got their hands dirty, the people who were connected with nature, and now I know why.
Yeah, and during the two-parter, you sort of travel around a fair bit, but you start in Lancashire, not far from where you grew up.
Yeah.
Now, what's the connection then to the story?
So, so we start in 1612 in Pendle. So it's about an hour away from Oldham, where I grew up. And so Pendle Hill is quite famous for witches and witchcraft and the witch trials. And a lot of women, some men, were executed there. And basically, you can change the word witch for woman, because it's a misconception that these women were midwives or healers. I think that's what we've all always thought. And actually, they were just people on the outskirts of society. They were trying to make their money. They weren't conforming to society, basically. And the king had written this book called Demonology, because he had such a fear, King James, of
James
witches.
I, this is, yeah.
And he... and basically, everyone wanted to do right by the king, and so they were cleaning out their communities by pointing at all these people and claiming that they were witches. So that's where we start, and then we go to Germany and then on to Salem.
Well, exactly. So Salem, you know, the location in America of the most infamous witch trials of all time.
Yeah.
What was it like being there and feeling that history?
Oh God, we were just talking about The Crucible, which is a play that I'd seen many times, and so to be in Salem, to be in the house of the Parises where it all started, we have such amazing contributors. That's Emerson Baker, and we have Gabriel Gatehouse, who talks about McCarthyism and what the Crucible, the connection there. And we go on to QAnon, and we go on to politics. There's so many connections because the subject is so vast.
Yeah.
And it really links to modern day, which is what we set out to do.
Well, as you said, witches used to be persecuted, but you in the documentary meet women who are reclaiming the word now.
Yeah. So there's something called witch talk, which I knew
Like
nothing
TikTok.
about.
Witch talk.
Yes, like TikTok, but it's witch talk.
No
Billions
way.
of views.
I love it.
So there's all sorts on there. There's spells on there, or just women kind of reclaiming the fact that the women that were called witches, who weren't witches from the witch trials in the 17th century, they were repressed and they were voiceless. So now I think the resurgence is talking about standing into your power, and it's okay to not conform to all society and just be who you are. So there's such a brilliant link. And we meet Laura Bates, who talks about the internet being the same as the printing press in the 17th century. Yeah. So it gives voice to people. I could talk for days about it because it's just so fascinating. I learned so much.
Wow. I want to look at Witch Talk now.
I know, exactly. And you look like this is resonating with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a couple witch talk dances recently, you know.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Hubble bubble. Yeah, exactly. I'm conjuring, yeah.
Well, and that was written for the court of James I. I mean, you did learn how to howl. I was very interested to see from the wonderful musician Bat for Lashes.
Yeah.
How did that go?
So she has some tarot cards out as well. Yeah, this is her teaching me. And so she gave me a reading, which was amazing. And then she said, why don't you try howling? Because in her concerts, she howls to the audience and they reply. And I'd watched this and was like, I was quite jealous of like the release that you get.
That you feel.
So now I take it on to work sets, and I had the whole crew howling at work on my last job. I've just finished a Netflix job. And they were like, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but it feels kind of good because it moves your insides. And basically, for what people think, oh, she's a bit mad, actually, you're giving yourself the, you're saying, I can be loud today. I can use my voice today, and it moves all your insides and sets you up for a day. Like vocal training.
We should start doing this in rehearsal time.
Well, see, I was just thinking maybe I'll just leave the kids downstairs when it's getting a bit much, go up to the bedroom and howl.
Let's absolutely.
Do it on a full moon and you'll be right on.
Here we go. Good tip.
Yes.
Here we go.
Investigating Witch Trials starts this Sunday evening, 9 o'clock on Channel 4. And if you still haven't watched Suranne's brilliant drama vigil, then series 1 and 2 are on iPlayer, of course.
Oh, I love
isn't
that
it?
emblem of hope. And look, here's one of Chris's photographs behind us on the screen. Isn't that beautiful? And it is fuzzy, you're right, Al.
It's just furrier than you thought, isn't it?
Tactile.
Very nice.
So pleasing.
Now then, Rachel, we nearly had a heart attack in the meeting because apparently it's 25 years since Bring It All Back shot S Club 7 to fame. Like, how long? Can't be.
I know, it's crazy.
You knocked Madonna off the top spot. Obviously, Lauren, being the guru of everything music, knew what the song was.
I mean,
which
I guessed
was
correctly. Beautiful Stranger. Would it have been Madonna?
Beautiful Stranger, yeah.
Beautiful Stranger. Can you believe it's been that long?
No, I can't. It's just crazy, isn't it? How time just goes.
It's unbelievable.
insane.
And you look no different. That's the
bless
annoying
you.
thing about that.
But Rachel, you've got a few stories to tell. So you've written a memoir, and of course that looks back on your time in the band, in S Club 7. And since you were last here, you've had your S Club reunion shows. Now I can imagine, you know, it was a real mixed bag emotionally being up on stage there for you. How was it?
It was incredible. I mean, obviously it took a different direction after Paul's passing, and it became a real... I mean, it was always going to be a celebration. I mean, 25 years was something to really celebrate, and bring the music back to the fans again, and we had such an incredible response, and it became just a beautiful tribute to him and a lovely moment to share everything with the fans, and it was really, really special.
And with the family too? Was it the first time your daughters saw you performing?
Yeah, I mean, we did a reunion back in 2015, and Amelie, my eldest, was 3. Aww. So this was the first time that they could actually really go, oh, wow, OK, this is, you know, really get it and get a sense of it. And they came up on stage with us at the O2, and it was very special to share it with them. And I was cool for 5 minutes, you know? I was cool for 5 minutes. And I was like, Mum again, doing well.
Alex has been in touch. We're not making it up, it's a different Alex to me. It's been 20 years since you first released solo material away from the band. Any plans to do any more music on your own?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I just did a festival, Hoopla, a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first time.
It's a good festival.
Amazing. Yeah. And it was the first time I've been back on stage doing my own stuff. And it just felt amazing, and I had such a brilliant reception, and yeah, it was incredible. So yeah, it's definitely, I love performing so much, so it's given me that buzz again to get back up there.
There's a little sparkle in the eye, isn't there, when you talk about it? It's lovely.
Yeah. But who knows, you know, everything's ever changing all the time, and it was just great to get back up there again. And
well, this is if things do change, and things have changed since the beginning, because fans might be surprised to hear, as you know, you write in the book that you initially really struggled to find your place in the band, and you also had imposter syndrome. What was that about?
God, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't recognise it as that then, and I was, you know, my teens going into this kind of whirlwind of you know, of an experience and sort of learning on the job. I mean, I got into the band. I had this sliding doors moment of being approached by these amazing producers. I just went to have lunch with my brother at Sony, and I got approached, and it was one of those moments that changed my life, and found myself in this band and just learnt on the job. And yeah, it was, but yeah, I did. I really struggled with a lot of anxiety, a lot of worries, a lot of yeah, imposter syndrome.
And obviously, like you say, you were kind of thrust together as a band. How close were you behind the scenes?
We were so close, but I mean, we were literally going 100 miles an hour all the time. We were so young. We were all in the same position that we were just all kind of go, go, go. And I think, like, very differently to some of the other bands, we also had the TV element, the movies, as well as recording the music, touring. There was so much going on, and there was never really time, I found, to sort of stand still and just take it in and find that, just be in the moment.
Well, we loved Eclipse 7, the absolute best. Rachel's book, Finding My Voice, is out on Thursday.
Now, tomorrow night, Adam is going to take on a new kind of spotlight as he steps into the world of documentary making. Before he tells us about it, here is a taste of Out Loud and Proud.
For over a decade, I've been the frontman for iconic rock band Queen, celebrating their music and queer legend, Freddie Mercury.
Fireworks.
I'd like to look back at UK queer history from the first Pride protest to today, to recognize how British LGBTQ+ artists have fought for their space in the music industry.
That stands out instantly. You think, gosh, you assume that you might have started in the States with a documentary like this, but actually it's all about British music. Now, why was that then?
Well, I got into a conversation with some people over at ITV about something that I felt was missing. You know, I've seen documentaries about the representation of the LGBTQ community in TV and film. There's been a handful of different things made. But I said, you know, no one's really done it in music. And it was just a casual conversation I was having when I was out here filming for Starstruck, the show that I was on a couple years ago. And I just said, well, we should do something. And they loved the idea, so we started it off.
And I love, as Alex says, that it's, you know, with British bands, including Queen, who you've been with for 10 years now. And there is this lovely conversation in the doc. You sit down with Sir Brian May and Roger Taylor, and you talk about their memories of Freddie. How did it feel to do that? Was that a conversation you'd had before?
We've talked about everything. I mean, we've traveled now for over 10 years. We've been touring together. So it's like the car rides, the backstage. There's lots of chat, you know. And I've learned a lot of these amazing things about Freddie over the years. But you know, there's always been a real concern of making sure Freddie's private life stays private because that's how he lived his life until the very end. And I respect that a lot. I think that Brian and Roger are very protective of Freddie in that way.
Yeah.
But we talked about the goal of the documentary, and that is that, you know, by being visible and by celebrating people that everyone looks up to, that have been successful, that are quite talented, that are very famous, what it does is it allows young people that are coming up right now who might be LGBTQ, it gives them hope. It gives them a feeling of, hey, I could do that too. I could do something great where people love what I do. And it also helps kind of build a bridge to the public, to all of our allies out there, people that go, you know what, I love Freddie Mercury. You know what? Oh, he was gay. Okay, cool. Well, I like him, so maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah.
These are the steps that we've been taking over the past couple decades. And in fact, a lot of the steps have started, you know, in the 60s and into the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, but the pendulum kind of swings back and forth and zigzags side to side. So we've made so much progress. You know, visibility in music is in a better place than it's ever been for queer people. And that's actually another thing. We use the word queer now. That's a big thing for people. A lot of people in the older generation, that was a derogatory term. Yeah. But now it's something that the LGBTQ community has adopted and use it as an umbrella term. That's something that Brian even brought up in my interview with him. He says, oh, that's strange because we never used to use that word. But things are changing. You know, we're evolving, we're moving forward, and change is not always easy. But I think what this documentary kind of confirms is that there's trailblazers in every decade that push it a little further and a little further. And now our community is facing a lot of pushback for the trans members of the community. And their presence in the music industry is sort of just now starting to go mainstream. And so we talk about that by the end of the documentary as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you talk to lots of artists who you think have broken down barriers. Who really stood out for you most then when you sat down and chatted to them?
Well, obviously, I have a very soft spot for Freddie, being a temporary member of Queen, you know, with Brian and Roger for the last 10 years. I just love that we got to speak to his experience as a songwriter and as a performer. Being LGBTQ, it adds another layer of things to your experience. There's something that I've said often, like when you grow up different, there's a lot of shame that comes with that. Whether your parents reject you for it, or your church, or your community, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of stuff we have to deal with emotionally and psychologically. And that's a journey for most gay people, and lesbian and bi and trans and everybody in the umbrella. Our journey is dealing with that shame and confronting it and releasing it. But it takes a long time. And for artists and creatives, when we write things from, you know, our souls, that informs a lot of what we're writing about and how we see love and acceptance and joy and all these emotions. It's sort of filtered through that lens. Yeah.
And, you know, you found fame on American Idol. I mean, looking back at your own story, has this given you a new perspective? You know, you'd come out to friends and family back then, but it wasn't part of your story in the show. Do you wish that it had been, that it could have been?
Well, it's funny, because you know, if I were on the show now, it would just be like, yeah, and whatever.
Yeah.
This is 2009 in America, and you guys are about 10 years ahead of us, I always say, in terms of acceptance and visibility. We're 10 years behind you. So in 2009, it was definitely like, you just didn't talk about it. It was so taboo. And no one ever said to me, don't say anything. But it also there was never really like a bridge to talk about it. It had nothing to do with what I was doing. This was before identity was sort of expected to be talked about like it is today. You know, today everyone, like, identity politics are part of everything, you know. But back then it just, you know, the expectation was everybody's straight. So it just it didn't come up. Ryan Seacrest didn't ask me who I was in bed with the night before. So it didn't come up. But, you know, I was pretty flamboyant. I was pretty camp. I think most people were like, well, he's probably gay. You know? Yeah. So as soon as the show was over and I was allowed to do interviews, because while we're on the show, they kind of kept us in a little bubble. My first interview, you know, I did Rolling Stone, and I was like, yeah, I'm gay, duh. Yeah.
Well, Adam Lambert, Out Loud and Proud, is on tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on ITV1 and ITVX.
That's all we've got time for tonight. Thank you so much for our wonderful guests.
Tomorrow we'll be back with Jill Halfpenny and Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen, and Matt will be here with Watchdog. Have a lovely evening. See you then. Bye-bye. Bye.